Welcome back, everyone. No, just kidding.
All right, let's get it.
Welcome back to Pain Points. All right, this is Pain Points. Another week here where the world meets business amidst the ever-changing landscape of entrepreneurship. I'm here with my guy, Samson Jagoras.
What's up?
How you doing this morning?
Man, I'm good.
Well, we got a good lineup today for you guys listening. We're going to run through this real quick, and we're going to jump into it because it's that kind of day here. We're going to kick us off with, we got some Mel Gibson, Mark Wahlberg, non-woke film studio. Did you guys hear about that?
I heard Roseanne Barr might be in on this.
And Roseanne Barr, literally taking over Hollywood. What would be the opposite? They need a fancy name. We got AI infiltrating Wendy's drive-thru. That's been trending online, just a sign of the things to come. We're going to talk about the top 6 humanoid robot companies. Maybe you want to throw some dollars at them, or maybe you want to run to a different country. We're going to talk about middle schoolers that are standing up to wokeness and whether or not it is their job to do that. Speaking to you entrepreneur dads out there, we got protests sparking all across our nation's universities that really spawned and kicked off from Colombia, anti-Israel protest. We got a ton of different clips there. And then we're going to talk about really the future of this ideology and really the crash course that it is on with entrepreneurship, capitalism, and all that the West stands for. And so...
Yeah, just a good reminder on why we talk about this stuff, right? Is it's impossible to be an entrepreneur in America and not have culture infiltrate your business and not be aware of it, talking about it, and doing something about it. So I'm actually very excited to talk about that last clip.
Yeah. Well, let's kick us off here. There was rumors circulating of a non-woke film studio.
Yeah. But it was led by Mel Gibson, Mark Wahlberg, and then I saw somebody else talking about Roseanne was in there as well. But the fact checks on that was Satire.
Yes.
According to Reuters.
Yes. But what that did spawn, though, is a conversation for us of like, well, the time is right for this kind of thing.
True. Yeah. So Mel Gibson obviously is kind of butt up against Hollywood traditionally.
Yeah.
Right. So is Mark Wahlberg. Mark Wahlberg's interesting to me, right? Because like he calls himself a practicing Catholic, but then he's in like movies like Ted, right? Or there's a couple other ones that are kind of woke that he's in. So I'm interested about like where he actually stands, or if that's just kind of part of his persona that he put on. But Chick-fil A has been on this path for a very long time. Most people don't even realize it. Why don't we talk about that?
Yeah. So Chick-fil-A Studios, what is it called? Trilith?
It's called Trilith. It's in Georgia.
Yes, in Georgia. We'll give you guys a quick rundown on the studio here. Pull up our notes. Okay, yeah, so Chick-fil-A is getting into the entertainment business. This is an article that popped up not too long ago, but that's the headline. Chick-fil-A getting into the entertainment business. It says Chick-fil-A wants to bring aboard an entertainment producer as it scales up its non-food offerings for customers. The company famous for its chicken has a job listing for an entertainment producer who will be tasked with overseeing the day-to-day creative production of original scripted and unscripted shows produced by Chick-fil-A and its various production partners and content creators. The content under the Chick-fil-A entertainment producer purview will go on the company's soon-to-be-launched Play app, a family-friendly platform that could have scripted podcasts and audio adventures, original animation, reality and game shows, and other live action scripted or non-scripted programming, according to the Post. Chick-fil-A indicated that the post that the content it is seeking to create would not necessarily focus on the chain of products, with its goal instead being to foster connection, care, and community. So they're leading with their values, not focusing on the chicken sandwich. Still, the listing said that one of the entertainment producers' responsibilities will be making sure the content comes out befitting of the Chick-fil-A brand and the family audience expectations.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know what Trilith is, it's 1,000 acres of studios, workshops, offices, backlots in Georgia. And the address is literally Trilith is why it's called Trilith Studios. It's located on, I'm tripping. No, that's not right. It's on Sandy Creek Road, Fayetteville, Georgia. That's where it's at. And cut that part out. But they built the studio. And so a lot of your favorite Marvel movies and whatnot have been filmed at the Trilith movie studios. Truett S. Catholic said, we don't call ourselves a Christian company, but we don't hide the fact that we operate by biblical principles. And so they just operate in this way. So the types of movies that they're making are definitely in line with their brand. But it's very interesting to see a privately held company like Chick-fil-A decide to infiltrate something like movies. And I think it's just a testament. We're talking about, capitalism and the market is always ripe for a better product.
Right.
And so if you can build a better product, people will follow. And so I think the direction that we've seen a lot of Hollywood go over the last 10 years is very woke.
Yeah.
But just the quality of the movies that I have seen personally, the storylines themselves have gotten very weak.
Yeah.
And so I think that just like we've talked about with the XFL versus the NFL, just like we've talked about the WNBA and how there's potential for a better product, given how terrible their leadership and pay structure is for these incredible athletes that are making millions of dollars who they can barely pay $100,000 a year to. I think we're seeing the same thing in Hollywood. And that's kind of segue into another story where just this year there was a Hollywood insider to launch a studio dedicated to faith-oriented films, and they raised $75 million to kick off this faith and values-oriented audience studio. So again, another example of, hey, there's this gap in the market. Nobody's really catering to it. I know for me and my family, it's become more challenging to find movies that align with our core values. And then, God bless a lot of the people that have tried to do it. A lot of times they're just cheesy, low quality production, And so it's going to take people who have a higher level of skill, the acumen in the industry as it relates to creating good movies.
In the capital,
and the ability to go raise money in order to do that.
Yeah. Dude, what's interesting, Angel Studios also. Angel Studios, I think personally, I think that gap in the market too also extends down to content creators too, like that are in film, just like everyday folks that are passionate about stories and want to convey and want to act and do monologues and do all these things. I think that ripeness of the market also extends there for people to get behind of like, these are the everyday creators that I follow that are entertaining. Because face it, a lot of people are getting large audiences for things that if they're not political, they're stuff that isn't really that impressive and definitely isn't conducive to to anyone's health. So I think that opportunity, that ripeness extends all the way down to the middle school kid who's trying to make some movies with his friends. Great, post it and be surprised what happens.
Yeah, it's interesting to just the timing of it all, considering where we're at, right, and kind of what's going on culturally to see this kind of rising out. And it ties in with some of the stories we're going to talk about later today. But, there is a generation that's coming up and a generation that's taking the helm that don't agree with what's happening. And rather than trying to fight it, they just said, hey, we'll just go start a different game over here. And that is the capitalistic way.
Yeah. Yeah, it totally is. There's a channel, Cole actually showed me this. It's not faith-based or anything or really moral. What was the name of that channel you showed me in Sedona? Almost Friday. So the YouTube channel called Almost Friday. And the one thing that struck me about this channel, some of the content is definitely not children appropriate. Please do not watch it with your kids, but in language wise. But the one thing that was really cool is the effort that they've put into creative in a time where people are being lazy and just going for the safe bet. They're taking all sorts of risks on their YouTube channel. And it's really impressive what he showed me. But to this point of like this market opportunities here. So go check out, what is it? Almost Friday?
Oh, I've seen this guy, the guy with the long hair. He does these like sales monologues.
Yeah. Things. And they're trash, like in terms of like the content, and they went viral, but the channel itself that Cole showed us was really impressive in terms of the quality of the ideas they were developing.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's the purpose of why we've gone with an in-person pod.
Right.
It's why we have refrained from doing remote interviews as much as we possibly can, unless we feel like we can create a good experience, is because the barrier to entry on like doing a Zoom interview is like not that high. Right. Anybody with a whatever $10 a month Zoom account can do a Zoom interview and publish it. It's a podcast. Does that mean it's good? Just because you can doesn't mean you should. And so I think that is kind of the next layer of quality does matter.
Yeah.
So, you know, in the Christian, we'll call it movie scene, it's like, oh, we're going to just create content that aligns with our values. It's like, well, if it sucks,
No one's going to care.
nobody cares. Right. I'm not going to watch it. There's, oh man, I cannot remember the name of it, but it was like it's called Pure Flex.
Oh yeah.
It was garbage. Everything on there is trash. I never found one. I canceled the membership. Right. It's like the acting is so bad. I feel like I'm watching like a 8th grader's play. It's really bad. Intentions are good, right? But the execution is really poor because they're ill-funded.
Yeah. Well, and I think the last point that I would mention too is like, for those of you out there building businesses, you're probably not you're probably not jumping into the production space. You probably, you know, you have a contracting company or something.
Right.
But I think from a consumer standpoint, the necessity for us to get behind these companies as consumers so that they do have the capital to expand and improve on their while living in their values and creating from their values. But they do need the capital really does actually matter. And that's sometimes I think within the faith, moral spaces, we get that virtue of like, just pull it off without the capital. But dude, it takes technology. Look, do you know what kind of cameras they have today? You know, like, so I think just one note that I would leave our listeners with is like, as a consumer, put your dollars behind these people instead of just being frustrated and backing away. Like actively find an Angel Studios, actively find Trilith and find their projects and put money to them so that they can get market share, they can get attention share rather. And then we all win.
I think that's part of the issue too. They've always these studios have assumed that nobody in Hollywood aligns with their values. There's plenty of people that do. They're just not taking the time to go find those people who are resident experts.
Yeah.
Who can support them. They're good at raising money. They have access to people that can underwrite and fund their projects.
Right.
I gotta stop drinking this bubbly before we get on this podcast. It's so good, but I'm getting the hiccups right now. So yeah, anyways, to say all that, to say that this is what we love about entrepreneurship is the door is always open for somebody to create a better product. And what's funny is these larger companies become more legacy. They have a tendency to kind of sit back on their loins and they just protect, but they don't innovate. Yep. I mean, we recently experienced this straight up, right? So we had a company who will not be named, basically, rather than trying to build a better product, come after us and say that we were, grabbing their content when we shouldn't. And maybe some of that was true, but the truth is where they could be looking at us and saying, wow, we want to partner with you guys to build a better product because we believe our product is better. But instead they just go threaten to sue you. So that just opens the door, because I love that, because when they're just thinking that they cornered the market, they're not thinking about innovation.
Right.
And so that's what's happening with Trilith and with the faith-based oriented movie studio that just came out of Hollywood.
And if you're out there looking, there's opportunities for you. Maybe there's an idea you have your sights on, you're passionate about it. Take a leap, take a leap and go for it.
Yeah. And you got to take some risk.
Definitely. My brother always says, risk it for the biscuit. Got to risk it for the biscuit.
Yeah. Amen.
All right. Well, okay. So we're talking innovation. Innovation's coming to your drive-through, right? Yeah. And so there's this
to low wage jobs.
There we go. And that's the bigger point. Let's pull up that clip of this drive-through at Wendy's. You guys can hear this if you're not watching.
Hey, real quick. I think we got to pick up our energy a little bit.
Yeah.
I feel flat.
Okay.
Welcome to Wendy's. What would you like?
Can I have a chocolate frosty?
Which size for the chocolate frosty?
Medium.
Can I get you anything else today?
No, thank you.
Great. Please pull up to the next
So
window.
annoying. Okay.
So Fresh AI is what it said. There was power in that. Crazy.
Yes.
But I mean, functional. Right?
Functional, totally functional. It's interesting. it just is so interesting to me that we've reached this point where it was inevitable, but I just think so many people are just unprepared for this. Like,
Yeah.
they just didn't see it coming. You know, I've worked at fast food restaurants, as many of us have, and there's many people there that just they've settled into like, this is going to be the thing that I do, and no, it ain't. No, it's not.
Yeah. It's going to force the lower part of the market to skill up, right? Or get skilled out. So it's kind of scary too, right? Just because how many of those jobs are important to lower income families. I mean, I think we talked about 99-cent store a couple of weeks ago, right?
Correct.
And so the average wage was like $21 or $27 an hour, primarily in California. But if you worked there full time, you were only making like $31,000 a year.
Right.
That's tough. But as an employer, your employment costs are going up, right? So obviously you have the wage cost, but then you have to pay FICA tax. You have to, contribute to Social Security, unemployment, those kinds of things, and maybe even 401k in some cases. They're forcing that. And it's an inevitable outcome of that. Not to say that it's right. It sucks. It's definitely the importance of making sure you go to
Skills.
school, get an education to a certain level and developing skills. But it's starting to infiltrate everywhere. Like Walmart rolled out their self-checkout.
Yeah.
It's a membership base. You pay $97 a month to check yourself out, which is crazy to me.
Okay, so that's a real thing. I heard about this.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I heard it wasn't a real thing. Then I heard it was a real thing.
Yeah, they're testing it. With the objective of, why would I pay somebody to just stand there and check stuff out when people can easily do it that themselves, right? And they have an app and everything kind of attached to the whole ecosystem to make that process as seamless as possible. But it's an interesting concept to say that as the consumer, I'm now going to pay to check myself out.
Right.
But really you're getting access to the service. It's faster. I personally like to go through self-checkout unless I have like a huge pile of things.
Well, I'm imagining too, it'll probably be, if it is what it says it is, it's probably going to be a pretty enhanced checkout in the sense that you might be able to just grab something and go. Kind of
Yeah,
thing.
we've already seen that in Amazon.
Yeah,
Amazon
right.
test stores where you just put it in the basket and you walk through and it checks everything out. So I could definitely see Walmart going that way. They have the money to do it, the innovation to do it.
I mean, they're stealing any stuff anyway, so you might as well just grab and go.
But so that's we're talking about something like an hourly wage job that is a very low skill level. But what about, I'm seeing it happen like in sales. So if you haven't seen the product Air.ai, they've figured out how to create conversational AI. You can train a sales agent to literally make thousands of phone calls on your behalf, start conversations, strike up text messages, and ultimately book calls for you, which, in the world of sales and marketing for technology, what we call a sales development rep, that type of person, they'd be getting a light salary plus kind of spiff bonus commission structure for getting calls booked. Imagine just getting rid of that.
Yeah, 100%. Do you, maybe Cole can find a demo video or something. Sorry, we're having a little trouble. Okay. So shout out to Brian, our friend Brian here. He put me onto it this a couple months ago.
But I've been getting ads from this kid for a couple of years. So this young guy that started this company, he was like originally a ClickFunnels marketer and like 12 years old. He built like $1 million funnel. So he's gone on to parlay that into what he's doing now, which is this technology. And to the same effect of like how we train conversational AI or chatbots, they're able to do that with people and voice.
Hey, James.
Yeah, who's this?
Hey, James. It's Alexander from Tesla Motors. How's your day going so far?
It's going pretty good, my man. How about yourself? You said from Tesla, right? It's the car company?
Yeah, that's right. I'm calling from Tesla Motors, the car company. Did you have any trouble or questions while customizing your car on our website?
No, we're just kind of shopping around and, just taking a look.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Sometimes we're just exploring our options before making a decision, and I totally respect that. Can I ask you why you were looking into a Tesla in the first place?
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I've had my car.
You can hear the initial sort of like lag in it, but you can tell by now. That video was posted last year. So
it's last year, but what happens now is kind of like how you used to, or how you would map an email funnel journey. Hey, if they do this action, go left.
Right.
If they do this, do right. That's how their platform works now. And then you can train it.
Right.
So you can throw questions at it and actually have a conversation with it and prime the sales agent, just like you would with any other rep before you put them on the phone with people. And so we're super excited about it. I'm going to test it out and see what how it looks and how it works.
Yeah. And it's not going anywhere. I mentioned our friend Brian at Family Roofing. He's really just been looking at the ways to implement technology like this to better provide better service. See, that's the other part of the coin, was like, some people are going to lose jobs, but the truth is there is an aspect of customer experience improvement that comes by way of AI.
100%.
And so entrepreneurs like Brian and Wendy's, it's going to be it's a hard thing, but it's going to be easier, and they're probably going to make less mistakes, and they're probably going to have to do. I mean, obviously the costs are what they are. That can go to
I think
restaurants.
Air is like $297 a month for like the max package. That's nothing.
Yeah. So you don't
have to pay this person benefits, even if it does 50% as good as an actual person would. The benefits there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. My capitalistic brain says, who's going to come up with a business model that's not education, that's not going back to school, that's going to equip these very vulnerable, low-level skilled people for roles in this AI economy?
I mean, I think AI would be the one to train them on how to do that. You know what I'm saying?
Well, there we go. Somebody's got to do it, though, like to be that catalyst for it to happen, I think. I just think that because, yeah.
I honestly believe that AI will become like Google, where it'll just be second nature.
That's what Brett said, right? That's what Brett said.
For people to just search. And if you look at the kind of initial vision that was created by Sergey, and I can't remember the other guy from Google.
Larry Page,
thank you. Their initial goal was that one day somebody could search without having to type in a search query. How do you do that? Right? If AI knows what you're thinking, or has what your tendencies tend to be, it can start to make some suggestions without you even having to engage it. Another example of AI that I think is pretty sweet is Google has created a feature via Google Maps that if you call in on that and you're trying to book a reservation at a restaurant that doesn't have a reservation system, it'll actually call the front desk for you and say, hey, can I book a reservation for 6 p.m.? Sure. How many people? 2, right? And takes all that information, books it, and then reports it back to you.
Yeah, that's gnarly, dude.
The bad side of that is I've gotten calls from kind of like hacker scammers where they're using AI now to cover their voice to make it sound more American instead of sounding like an Indian guy. And the only way you can catch it is they say certain words funny, right? So there's pros and cons. I think that's another learning curve we're going to have to get through, which is operating in this new world with AI and trying to understand what's real, what's fake. How do you perceive that?
Dude,
because it's getting really good now.
Okay, before we transition, speaking of like scams and AI, did you see that it was floating around like the last 2 weeks of they scammed this older guy through the Uber app? They called him and basically were like, someone's going to be bringing you a package, and if you don't pay up, you're going to get hurt or something like that. Well, they scammed another woman at the same time who was an Uber driver, telling her she needed to go pick up a package. And the guy ends up thinking that she's a threat, kills her. And it was all done through, I think, just voice, like masked voice and AI and some different things. I'm not quite sure all the details, but it was basically like, how do we stop this from happening again?
That's wild.
Like, yeah. So.
Yeah, well, it's the beginnings of that movie I, Robot or The Terminator. Speaking of that.
Speaking of the Terminator, speaking of I, Robot, I Am Legend, and everything else that has battery components and wires and a brain much sharper than you and I. This article from Seeking Alpha gives a nice, thorough breakdown. Shout out to Cole C. Rock, our guy bringing us this one. Top 6 humanoid robot companies to consider as a new trend potentially takes off. So the article itself is pretty dense and has quite a few things to cover, but here are some key points from the article, some key summary points. The global market for humanoid robots is projected to reach 38 billion by 2035.
Wow.
Yes, with potential shipments of 1.5 to 6.5 million units, meaning robots per. Dude, that's an army. Time out.
Now that you said it out loud.
Tesla's Optimus humanoid is leading the way, with other companies like Agility Robotics, Boston Dynamics, Figure AI, Sanctuary AI, and Uptech Robotics also making advancements. Risks include technology development, high costs, public acceptance, legal issues, company stock market challenges, and complete human civilization destruction.
That was not in the article.
That was
But
not an article.
I've seen enough of these movies to know.
I do much more than just, this guy's leveraging himself. But check this out. So a humanoid robot is a robot resembling the human body. They have been around for many years. However, in more recent years, the growth of artificial intelligence has led to greater interest and rapid advancements. The announcement that Tesla was developing a humanoid robot first came in 2021, August, and was followed in September 2022 with a prototype named Optimus, shown at AI Day. Since then, Optimus has dramatically improved and may now or soon be in use in Tesla's factories. Tesla's Optimus is leading the global race and by others to follow, is leading to a global race by others to follow in Tesla's footsteps, with many other robotics companies already well advanced in humanoid robots, but often using less advanced AI than what Tesla is developing. So that's interesting. So you have the physical components of the robot that are more or less advanced, but then you have the AI, really the core substance of the robot's functioning that is more or less advanced. And so there's people that have been around before Tesla, but Tesla's got the AI dialed in.
It's the same thing we were just talking about, though.
Yeah.
So in the retail space or fast food space, right, it's those jobs. In the manufacturing space, it's kind of that line manufacturing work that's getting taken over. It's also safer, right?
Well, this part's key. So he says there's three main use cases for humanoid robots in the future. One, physical labor. 50% of global GDP is human labor, $42 trillion. Wow. Then there's consumer household. 2.3 billion households worldwide, and 700 million of that is an aging population in need of at-home care. So we could see robots assisting in people living in their older years, something like that. And then last use case will be off-world. So space exploration, places humans can't go.
I'm going to add one to that list. Warfare.
Yeah. So defense.
Yeah. I mean, just a human robot, right?
Physical labor though, right?
I guess that would be physical labor. Yeah, that's true.
Would you guys buy one? Have one in your house?
I'm not there yet, Cole. But I have one in my house.
I mean, I would. As long as.
I feel like I'm in Blade Runner right now, 2049.
Yeah.
Blade Runner. Have you seen Blade Runner?
No, I've never seen
man, you should see it.
I think I've never seen. I think the only science fiction fantasy movie I've ever seen was Avatar, and then I slept halfway through that trial.
Blade Runner is creepy because at that point the humanoid robots literally look like humans, and so you can't tell them apart.
Wow. Okay, yeah, I take that back. For now, I wouldn't have a robot in my house, but I think.
I mean, you kind of already do. Do you have an Alexa? You have Siri on your phone?
I don't use Siri.
But you have it on your phone.
I have it on my phone.
Yeah, exactly. So in a way, we're all kind of using it. Yeah. It's just when it starts to take the human form, it starts to get a little bit creepy.
Okay, so Goldman Sachs forecast that the market is $38 billion by 2025. That's more than sixfold by the previous projections of $6 billion just in recent years. The team's base case is for more than 250,000 humanoid robot shipments in 2030, almost all of which would be for industrial use.
The TAM, the total addressable market, will be 4.85 trillion.
Yeah.
Maybe we can put some of these people in government.
We don't want them in government. I mean, their government's basically robots right now. Have you seen Joe Biden and Pelosi? They're basically robots now. McConnell freezing up his programs.
Man, that's really sad.
Short circuiting. All right. Will you scroll up, Cole, on that one? I think there's a need. No, I'm sorry, down. There's a complete. Yeah, there we go. Here's a quick little breakdown of what some of these some advancements in the robotics. We got Tesla Optimus leading the way. Yeah, so we'll include this article. It's seekingalpha.com / top 6. Just search top 6 humanoids. Yeah,
I saw that one the other day.
Yeah, the guy showed me this one, Boston Dynamics. And then this one, yeah. So Figure 01 may be soon working in a BMW factory, building your cars. Wow. These are cool times we live in. Strange times. I would say cool, that's the appropriate word I can use. Cool.
It's infiltrating everything. And kind of a segue off of that's not directly related to robots, but is a little bit scary is, did you see this article about AI can predict your political orientations?
No, what do you got?
So it says AI can predict political orientations from blank faces and researchers fear serious privacy challenges. So this is coming out of Fox Business News. And here we go. Researchers are warning that facial recognition technologies are more threatening than previously thought and pose serious challenges to privacy after a study found that artificial intelligence can be successful in predicting a person's political orientation based on images of expressionless faces. That is wild.
So like their expressionless faces?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
A recent study published in the Journal of American Psychologist says an algorithm's ability to accurately guess one's political views is on par with how well job interviews predict job success or alcohol drives aggressiveness. Lead author Michael Kaczynski told Fox News Digital that 591 participants filled out political orientation questionnaires before the AI captured what he described as a numerical fingerprint of their face and compared them to a database of their responses to predict their views.
Wow.
I think the people don't realize how much they expose by simply putting a picture out there, said Kaczynski, an associate professor of organizational behavioral behavior at Stanford University's Graduate School of Business.
Wow.
It says, we know that people's sexual orientation, political orientation, religious views should be protected. It used to be different. In the past, you could enter anybody's Facebook account and see, for example, their political views, the likes, the pages they follow. But many years ago, Facebook closed this because it was clear for policymakers and Facebook journalists that it was just not acceptable. It's too dangerous, he continued. So imagine that, just an expressionless photo. Do you think it's because liberals are so angry all the time? They just have like...
just raging.
They just have like crow's feet and like wrinkles in their forehead.
Well, I think this is my mind immediately goes to China.
Well, they're already using this stuff, right? Social credit score, but it's like the brain in a sense. So like I could see you from probably 400 feet and I would know it was you. Me?
Yeah. Right. Like you would, I would just know from your gait. I would know from all the moments of time in my memories with you. And like, you just know. And so I think it's interesting. I think we're seeing the use cases for it in places like China. I don't love it from the application of, this is the part of artificial intelligence that I don't like. When we're talking about surveillance and your choices that you're going to be making and these kinds of things where it's like, it's now gone from utility of assisted living to now you're touching on moral coercion, persuasion, what agendas, like you're rolling into a different camp of discussion whenever you start talking about what people's choices are and how AI and those things are going to interact with it.
And so I know when people hear that, they're like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Guess how many surveillance cameras are in China?
Probably 2.6 million.
That's cute. According to industry researchers, IHS Market, at the end of 2029, there were 770 million surveillance cameras
that's what I said.
in the world. Hold on. In the world. 770 million in the world. Guess how many of those were in China?
Oh, easy. 80% of them.
415.8 million of them were located in China. If these trends continue, by the end of 21, there will be about 1 billion in the world and 540 million in China.
Okay, so let me tell you about our.
Why would China care so much about surveying and surveillancing its population?
It's control, complete and utter control.
It's freaking wild.
Complete and utter control. But here's the thing. Here is the thing, though. This gets blanketed, especially in the West here. This gets ushered in through convenience, through comfort.
Yep.
So we were traveling to Arizona for a client, and Cole and T-Bone over here, C-Rock and T-Bone, our guys, we were going through the line, and they just went and got social credit scored because they went through and got scanned visually, gave up the boarding pass. And me, I'm over here like, wait a second, what is happening? And I said, ma'am, is this voluntary? So you no longer need your boarding pass. You give your ID and you step in front of the video camera and it scans you.
Was it clear?
No, it wasn't clear. That's the thing. It wasn't a special service for moving along. That's what I'm saying. It's being ushered through these channels and then it gets distributed to the broader population. And so now literally we're going up to the line. You know, why did I download my boarding pass in my app? Because I thought I needed it. No, they're like, give me your ID, put your ID in, and then stand in front of this camera.
Wow.
And
Is this at Denver?
This is Denver. And I was like, is this optional? And she was like, oh yeah, it's optional. But that was the thing, is like, it's not communicated that it's optional. So they're already like in subtle ways taking away your choice. They don't even offer it to you anymore.
Right.
So you get conditioned to do that, to just go through it. And then it becomes a part of everyday life, which I'm sure they didn't ask the People's Republic of China, all the citizens, of like, hey, can we put 400 million cameras on you? They were just like doing it.
Yeah.
And doing it in ways where the public wasn't interacting with it. I know even when I was growing up, they were installing cameras in our neighborhoods and stuff. Granted, they were violent neighborhoods and things, but
Right.
the people didn't say, put these cameras up. It was governing bodies.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, there's, again, pros and cons to everything.
right.
The technology has some good use cases, but at the same time, it can always be used to the extreme negatively.
For sure. And so the truth in all of these last several minutes is that AI is coming. It's going to encroach on your business. So we had Brett Romberg on to talk about it. We've been talking about it since the first time we talked about it, but I don't want to say embrace it, because that sounds like I'm gonna make you embrace this. But
You need to take the time to understand it.
Yeah.
To stick your hand in the sand and choose willful ignorance is not a good path to
it's
go
not a
down.
solution. It's definitely not a solution. And yeah, well, shout out to all the AI business owners out there who are literally changing industries.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, we're using it in our business. So it's definitely here to stay. Get used to it, get adapted to it.
yeah,
Don't put your head in the sand.
Don't put your head in sand. And yeah, well, check out our interview with Brett, that segment.
Yeah, we can link that.
Yeah, that was really good. For those of you who don't know or didn't get a chance to check out last week or 2 weeks ago, his breakdown on a lot of things is going to be really helpful for you on where to get started. Okay, so the side of entrepreneurship that I think isn't talked about a lot in the glitz and glamour and sexification of entrepreneurship is why entrepreneurs do what they do, especially the successful ones that you see in their 40s, their late 30s, 50s. You know, we do this for family. We do this for our descendants, the people coming after us, you know, the things and people we care about. And so this, as we transition to these next stories, I really just want to preface this, that for those of you out there who are parents, we're pulling this stuff up to talk to you about the choices you have to make on the parental and your family level, not just how to succeed in business, because as we've talked about, it's coming for your business, but this nonsense is not just coming for your business. It's coming for your family. And you're going to have a choice to make, whether you're a Christian, a Buddhist, a Muslim, an atheist, or a furry.
Yeah.
And so let's talk about these middle schoolers. So we got two different segments here. First, it's 5 middle school female athletes in West Virginia. They are competing in track and field, in particular the shot put. And they refuse to throw shot put together against a male who is identifying as Becky Pepper Jackson. What a name, Becky Pepper Jackson. And so we got a clip here, audio and video here.
Yeah, they're scratching out, right?
They're scratching out, yeah. Cole's always mutes his browser. He just doesn't like X. Okay, well.
Yeah, there's no sound.
So be it. It's probably Trevor's fault. Earlier? The clip I saw previously, I didn't play it this morning with audio, so I don't know. This wasn't the first time I saw it. But as you can see here, they're all lining up and they're out. And good for them, right? Like, think about what these young girls are having to deal with, you know, just mentally.
Well, I mean, I've even seen it on the local level, soccer team, where there was a boy playing on the girls' teams. So that same city league this year decided that they were just going to do all co-ed teams because they didn't know how to tackle it.
Yep.
They didn't want to lay the line down. Wow. What I think is more interesting about this, and more the topic why we bring it to you guys as entrepreneurs. When I was, coming up in business over the last 17 years, I was always told, like, you just keep politics out of it. You just keep your personal opinions out of it. And I just don't think you have that choice anymore, right? Like one of the beautiful things about capitalism and about business is the fact that you can build a tribe of people who align with your core values. And if you don't like that, then don't work for me.
Right.
But this whole DEI movement has made it so that I have to hide my values and be, overly accepting of everybody and everything that they believe, and basically shelf, because as the business owner, I have to shelf my ideas. Hey, if you want to come work for me and our values don't align, and just know that I'm not going to change the way that I am and what I talk about and the things that I talk about on my podcast and my platform. If that offends you, like, cool, don't work for me. And I think that's interesting where we're at, where the idea of business is treated a lot more like this, like a socialism kind of structure where you can, everybody, the tribe, ultimately, we're going to do what's better for everybody. Don't rock the boat. Don't offend anybody. And that's just not true or accurate or why anybody would want to go be an entrepreneur.
Right. Right. Now let's look at the second clip. And then I have a particular thought, just even in response to that lines up with that. So this comes by way of Ian Miles Chong, and it's some students at Mount Nebo High School in Payson, Utah. They staged a mass walkout from school to protest the school's tolerance of quote unquote furries. The students say that those who participate in the furry subculture are not only tolerated to act out their fantasies by dressing up in outfits that violate the school's district's dress code, but also that they bite, scratch, bark, and spray air freshener on other students who are just there to learn. The school's tolerance of furries has been extremely disruptive and even extends to putting a litter box in the girls' bathroom. The administrators deny the veracity of these complaints, claiming that the problem has been blown out of proportion. The school was previously in the news after a teacher who promoted climate change gave her students bugs to eat for extra credit. Let's see if this one has some audio of students protesting.
So are they wearing a mask every day?
Yes. But every time they go, they're always just wearing a mask. But the principal finally stood up and banned those stuff.
But they still wear them every day,
Yeah,
and they don't get in trouble. The principal doesn't make them get in trouble.
Yeah. All the principal says is just be kind, be nice, be nice.
Hundreds of kids is...
What's the point of dressing up like a furry?
It's just, I don't know. They think they're so cool that they want to
get
be
a lot of
there.
attention. I think they want attention. So people can come at them and just look at them and think that they're so cool.
Okay.
Also,
Are you guys going to be in trouble for walking out of school today?
no, maybe. We might.
If we go back on school grounds, we will get in trouble.
Hopefully not. We're standing for our rights. We're standing for what the furries
All right,
are.
pause it. So listen to the little girl at the last little bit. You don't have to play it. She said, we're standing up for our rights because this is wrong. And so just what you said.
So the majority is made to feel uncomfortable for a couple people. I can't imagine it's that many. It's maybe 10, if I'm guessing. But that to say it's blown out of proportion, it says hundreds. So I don't know that to be true, but that was a decent amount of kids right there.
Decent amount of kids for sure. And the thing that really strikes me, I'm going to hit this from two levels. One on a sort of parental and practical level, relationship level, which is like these young girls, they scratch in the shot put. These students in Utah walk out. I don't want to criticize because I don't know all the context, and I'm only seeing the children. But for me, when I'm thinking about the entrepreneurs we speak to, you guys, it's time for you to stand up. Like, these little kids can't articulate that, right? They can't articulate their arguments, their ideas, and why their positions and why they're right. They just know it's wrong, and they're just doing it because they have that lens on things. But it did bother me that it took the kids to walk out of school. Now, granted, I'm sure their parents knew, right? Hopefully. But at what point are we going to decide that, hey, we're not going to keep sending our kids to the wolves, so to speak, and wait for them to rise up as, brave sheep, but we're actually going to be shepherds. We're going to go there. And I may miss my meeting today. I just might do that because that's actually why I do this in the first place. Is so I can have this freedom, this time freedom as we talk about, and purpose freedom. Because it's not going to be, the folly would actually be allowing the kids to fight this battle. That would be great folly. And so that part gets me, but there's a spiritual component to this. If you've listened to our pod, you consume other news outlets, and you're like, this is ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous. But I'm going to take you guys to church here for a second.
Get them preach.
And I'm going to show you something in the book of Romans, in particular, chapter 1. I'm going to save you some of the reading, but here's a very interesting, not even interesting, this is a truth. So it says, for since the creation of the world, his invisible attributes, that is, he being God, his eternal power and divine nature have been clearly perceived, being understood by what has been made, so that they are without excuse. So what it's saying is you can look around the world, you can look at this creation and see that there's a creator behind it. We are without excuse for not thinking, not understanding that there's a creator. But here's the thing. For even though they knew God, people that can look around and see it, they did not honor God as God or give thanks. But instead, they became futile in their reasonings, and their senseless hearts were darkened. Claiming to be wise, they became fools, and they exchanged the glory of the incorruptible God for an image in the form of corruptible mankind, or birds, or four-footed animals, or crawling creatures. Sounds a little bit like furries. Therefore, God gave them up to vile impurity in the lust of their hearts, so that their bodies would be dishonored among them. For they exchanged the truth of God for falsehood and worship and serve the creature rather than the Creator, who is blessed forever. So what that's saying is, because we live in this world where we refuse to acknowledge God, God is actually allowing his creation to fall under the judgment to ridiculous worship of the creatures that they want to worship. And I'm going to move down to two other verses. And it says, for this reason, God gave them over to degrading passions, for their women exchanged natural relations for that which is contrary to nature. And likewise, men, too, abandoned natural relations with women and burned in their desire toward one another, males with males committing shameful acts. We know what this is referring to, right? And just as they did not see fit to acknowledge God, God gave them up to a depraved mind to do those things which are not proper. People being filled with all unrighteousness, wickedness, greed, evil, full of envy, murder, strife, deceit, malice. They're gossips, slanderers, so on and so forth. And so I'm like, I see extremely out of breath for some reason. But the point being is that part of why this is happening, part of why kids are now being allowed to run around schools and have litter boxes in their bathrooms, and adults are consenting to this, and what we're going to cover with Columbia, part of why all of this is happening is because we as the creation refuse to acknowledge God, and instead we want to be God. And it doesn't work that way. It's the equivalent of a virus is in the system and the machine is going haywire. And it's our fault because we refuse to acknowledge God. We refuse to acknowledge, we're quick to point out when there's a mass shooting, this is evil and all these things. You can't have God, you can't have evil you can't have that without God.
Yeah. There has to be the dichotomy of it.
100%.
So it's funny because then there's the question for people who don't believe, which is, well, why does God let this stuff happen then? Yeah. What's your response to that?
Well, God doesn't let this stuff happen. First of all,
right.
We will be held account to this. This is actually the holding of account. But man does have a choice. If you wanted us to be robots, then you would be like, well, that God, that creator didn't give us any freedom. He doesn't love us. He doesn't do, that sucks. So this is what you get. You have the freedom to make a choice, to honor God, to do things his way, or to go the opposite way. But you will reap what you sow.
And it can't be love.
Yeah.
If you don't have the choice.
Yeah, 100%.
Right. So
100%. Yeah. Love is always a choice, right? Love is a verb, not a noun. Right?
But it's just always so interesting because when things go good, people want to tout themselves.
100%.
When things go bad,
where's God?
They want to blame God.
Where's God at?
And you can't blame him for the bad if you're not going to simultaneously give him credit for all the good.
Yeah.
And that is the disconnect.
100%.
Which is you want this magical God to come in and sweep you up when things are terrible.
Right.
But when things are good, you don't want to honor God. And to your point, what does that mean to honor God?
Right.
How do we do that?
Well, it starts by acknowledging his existence. It starts by acknowledging that you can look around this world, and if you come to the conclusion that this just happened randomly, you're already off track. All you got to do is look in the mirror at your own eyeballs, right? All you got to do is look at the world around you. That's what it was saying.
Why are you looking so intensely at Trevor right now?
These things are clearly evident to us. They're clearly evident to us, to young children, and so part of why this is happening is because you want to reject the very thing that holds it all together, and you're like, why is it falling apart? That's why, and it's really sad to see that our children in particular are having to deal with this, man. And so you guys out there, like, stand in the gap for the children, because especially those of you who know the truth. So,
do you have the other side of that interview, the furry interview?
Yeah. So I think there's one with the actual furry. So I'm pretty sure this is a furry.
Thank you. This is Strudel, a member of the furry fandom. Though they've been a furry for over a decade, they have their own opinions.
It's crazy that it's escalated to this point where these kids are being so distracting to their peers that their peers want to stage a walkout. So to have, the next generation kind of muddy our name and not represent it very well, it is kind of disappointing.
Strudel believes there should be some limits.
Continue doing things you like, continue dressing up, continue making art, but maybe let's keep it outside of school hours.
As for the school, Sorensen says they have one main goal.
We want every student to feel safe when they come to school, and we want students to get along. In fact, we want adults to get along.
Okay, so the district says they've worked with some students whose dress and appearance.
Yeah,
I have no words.
Yeah, so going just back to the scripture one more time, the result of rejecting God, even the willingness to acknowledge God, or even the space that God can exist, is that your passions are degraded, your lusts become improper, and your minds become depraved. And that is what we've been seeing. You see, sometimes we're like, it's the LGBTQ alphabet thing. Yes, but it's actually degraded passions, improper lust, and depraved minds as a result of rejecting truth.
On that topic, though, so the pushback you always get is then why did God put this in me? Well, God didn't put it in you.
Didn't put it in you.
It doesn't matter what it is, whether it's dressing like a furry or alcohol abuse, right? It's like those things. Basically, let's put it like this: to live the ways of the world, to be lustful, greedy, perverted, gluttonous. That's actually very easy to do, right? What is required of us to truly follow God's will is to actually not do that, to actually decline those things and have discipline. And so part of, well, let's take it out of religious context or spiritual context and just say, we live in a world that lacks personal accountability, that lacks discipline, that lacks the ability to say no to certain things, right? Just because you can doesn't mean you should drink a handle of alcohol. And that's where we're at.
Yeah.
So these kids are being taught that like, just whatever you feel,
right,
just do that.
Right.
I don't agree with that.
And for
you're not hurting anybody. And therein lies the other problem is define hurting anybody.
Right.
We're talking about the greater good for society as a whole. You're talking about radical individualism. What's best for you.
Yeah. And a small few.
Correct. And so is this better for society as a whole?
Right.
I would say no.
No. And so shout out to those parents who knew and say, go ahead and don't throw the shot put. Don't go ahead and walk out of school.
Yep.
Go ahead. All right. So you know who's really messing up? The parents of these university students as we hit this last segment here.
Yeah.
So for you guys have probably seen, and by the time you listen to this, you will know that there's been tons of protests spawning really from Columbia University on the East Coast. And what it led to was a bunch of arrests. And so I'll give a backdrop here just in the interest of time. Students at Columbia and some staff, I add, began to do what was essentially an occupy. They began to occupy public space at the university in the name of protesting.
What were they protesting?
They were protesting the Israel-Hamas war, quote unquote war, in particular, the quote unquote genocide that's happening to the Palestinian people and that Israel needs to stop and everything else that is anti-Israel in this conflict. And so we'll just feature this post here from Colin Rugg. Columbia and Barnard faculty hold walkouts in protest of school's decision to call the police on pro-Palestine students. Every second of this is movie popcorn. The liberal college is engaged in a civil war as professors are taking sides in the Israel-Hamas war, with 54 Columbia Law School professors sending a letter to leadership blasting them for suspending pro-Palestine students. Pro-Israel liberal professor Shai Davidad is on the other side of the conflict, hammering Columbia for barring him from entering campus. So Colin's giving an overview, but essentially what happened is more than 100 demonstrators camped out on the campus. They were arrested last week because, they're out there protesting and occupying space that does not just belong to them. And really a public university is not the space to be engaging in an Occupy movement, that you're going to have your own encampment that people can or cannot enter on a public space where many people pay money to attend, and it's theirs just as much as it's yours. So that led to some arrests. Then that trickled down to NYU, and then that's trickled down to other universities over the last week that are all engaging in this sort of, we're going to encamp, we're going to occupy these spaces, and we're going to protest. We're taking this into our own hands. And so law enforcement has been busy across so many different campuses. But the sick thing is that staff, teachers, professors are engaging in this too. And it's sick.
I mean, are we surprised?
We're not surprised.
We're not surprised.
We just read the passage. It's not, we're not surprised.
But what I also think is just so fundamentally confusing to me is the same people that are out there supporting pro-Palestine are the same people supporting all these liberal woke ideologies.
Yes.
And if they actually understood what that camp believed,
yes,
there is no way that they would support it. Not to mention, this would never even be able to happen in Palestine.
Right.
And so that what they're supporting is literally contradicting every other thing on their checkbox of I'm a woke liberal.
Correct.
So I don't understand that.
Well, that's the depraved mind portion of what we were just talking about. Your mind literally doesn't comprehend, I'm supporting something that is against me.
Not to say that war is a good thing. That's not what we're talking about here. Just to get that clear. But like 90% of that area is Palestinians, and there's one small segment that's Israel, and everybody's fighting over that, which is also biblical for those of you who don't know. That stems way, way back to Abraham and Sarah. But it's just crazy to me. Now, I don't fully understand the political why have we always supported Israel? I don't fully understand that. I'm not saying that I do. I'm just kind of stepping back and saying, you decided to plant your flag. Instead of saying, hey, stop the war in general, we're saying, hey, Israel's wrong and Palestine's right. I don't get that at all.
Yeah.
And I think our next clip actually does a pretty good job of highlighting the actual truth that these people fail to understand.
Yeah, absolutely. So will you guys play that clip that's labeled "The West is Cooked"?
Listen to this.
What would happen to a gay couple in Palestine, sir?
What?
What would happen to a gay couple in Gaza?
Executed according to Islamic law. Islam doesn't endorse gayism. Islam doesn't endorse homosexuality.
Do you think that's good, sir? Do you think it's good for gays?
Islam doesn't approve of being gay.
I see. Okay, so would you like to see Sharia law in Canada replace Canadian law?
At some point it will. You know, because we have families, we are making babies. You're not. Your population is going down the slump, right? Yeah. And by 2060, according to Pew Research Institute, your research, by 2060, Muslims will be the biggest religious group the world over. What are you going to do then? Actually, are you going to oppose Sharia even then?
Well, you know what? I'm very appreciative of the honesty. We don't usually get that. So you do support Sharia.
Just like you had a Muslim, a Western majority nation in a land of Native Americans, one day we can have a Muslim majority nation here in Canada.
Listen to this.
Yeah. And so,
wake up.
Wake up.
Wake the heck up.
Yeah, wake up, man. Man, I mean, is there even further more to say at that point?
No, that rounds it out pretty good.
Yeah.
If you guys enjoyed what you heard, give us a like, subscribe, share it with a friend, write us a review.
Yeah.
And until next time, peace out.